Welcome to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV, and this is a new feature where we're going to focus on each of the Super League clubs for their preparations for what they hope will be a successful 2023. Top of the billing, the first club we're going to focus on, the Early Birds, the Black and Whites, the men from East Hull. It is. Oh no, the West Hull, aren't they?
I think so, mate.
Yeah, I fucked up there.
No, it's...
I fucked up. West Hull, yeah. Yeah, West Hull. Yeah, East Hull's red. Fuck's sake. Hey, it's all good. All right, we'll start again. Welcome to Show Me the Money Rugby League TV, a new special feature where me and JoeMe here are going to look through each of the 12 Super League teams ahead of their preparations for the Super League 2023 season. Our first club that we're going to put under the microscope is the men from West Hull, the Black and Whites, the Early Birds. It is Tony Smith's Hull FC. Joe, what can you tell us about the ins and outs in West Hull? I've got it right. I actually said East Hull to start it, so I know I've got some friends from West Hull who will criticise me for that, but we are going to focus on Hull FC in episode number 1. And for those of a Championship and League One variety, we will be doing the Championship and League One once the recruitment is done at those clubs.
Yeah, I think we're planning to do every team, Mick. I think that will be...
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, and we can get all their supporters, get us watching, and we can give them our, obviously, insights and our thoughts on whether the good, the bad, the ugly, as they say, and hopefully there's more good than ugly, especially at Bradford, as you know. But yeah, no, we're starting off at Hull FC. After a couple bad seasons, a couple bad seasons there, Mick, where I think that they'll all be disappointed in where they've ended up being in the league. They've not hit the heights that they wanted to, and they've made some big changes going into the new year. I think a lot of Hull FC, they were aligned with old legs, older players. And I think they might have changed that going into the new year, Mick. Or at least they've tried. They've got 5 signings coming into the new year. We'll go on who is left and we can see what we think afterwards. But I'd say, in general, with the 5 signings, they've gone youth, they've gone runners, and they've gone players who are going to speed it all up. They're known as a slow pack, aren't they? That can't very one steady pace team. And I think that might change going into next year.
Well, that's one criticism I always had of Hull FC, and we mentioned this historically on the full 80 minutes. You look at Lee Radford's side, then you look at Brett Hodgson's side. We've always said, with the limited number of interchanges now, and the speed and the pace and the rule changes, the 6 agains, the set restarts, ultimately, you do need to be more athletic and more fitter. And that's no discredit to anyone who's played at Hull FC, but clearly they've had this sort of ethos. We'll go for the big physical and go down that physicality route, which is all good in certain situations, but with the game now being at such a fast pace, it's I'm guessing from a Hull FC point of view, and for those supporters, it's music to their ears to actually see the club evolving with the way the game's being played.
Yeah, I think you've nailed it. So yeah, no, we'll just go through. They've made 5 marquee signings. I can't say marquee because that's actually linked to some 5 big signings. I don't think they've signed a squad player here, Mick. I'm looking down my list. They're all going to be starters, and they should all be stars for Hull going into next year. First off, we'll make it easy, Mick. We'll start off with your man, the Bradford man, the future superstar, Jake Truman.
He might be a Bradford lad, but listen, he played 1 game for Bradford against Swinton in 2016.
Oh, you don't feel that connection
that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But yes, Jake Truman certainly made his name at Castleford, and rightly so. And as we know, there were Leeds in for him. There were a number of clubs in for him. Hull FC, obviously, they offered the better deal, and Jake is going to be undoubtedly a key pivot in Tony Smith's spine.
Yeah, I think again, at only 24 years of age, he's got age on his side.
Still has a lot, yeah.
that he's still got lots to learn. He's been injured for the last year or two, hasn't he? He's been getting back into it. He hit some very good form just before his latest injury, and I think Hull are hoping to bring that form in. He's probably underrated at the moment, Mick. I think at one point he was the upcoming megastar halfback in our game. Now I think he's here to prove a point. Say no, I'm the man, and I'm going to have a brilliant season at Hull FC and hopefully bring him to the heights that they want to be at.
Yeah, Jake, to me, is one of a number of young players. You look at Jack Walker recently, who's left Leeds for Bradford. He's another young player now who needs to prove himself.
Yeah.
Probably Callum McClelland at Castleford, depending where he ends up. Callum needs to be playing in 2023.
Yep.
If that's not at Castleford, hopefully it's elsewhere. Another young player. Because they all come through together. Jack Walker, Callum McClelland, Jake Truman around the same sort of time. For Jake, this is a huge chance, because this is not just a couple of seasons. This is potentially a decade-long investment in such a young player. You are going to be our poster boy. You're taking over the mantle in that halfback role.
Yeah, and I think his game, he can produce magic, and I think that's what Hull FC have got to look forward to. He's not a controller, he's not a Luke Gale type player, he's not a Mark Sneed type player. He's a maverick. He's someone who's he might be quiet for 40 minutes of a game, but he's done it. He'll produce that magic to assist a try, score a try himself. He's a brilliant runner with the ball. He's got one of the best passing games in the league. He's a brilliant player, and I think probably Jake needs someone who's going to control the game and put him in the positions, probably to let him produce these bits of magic that no one else can replicate. And that leads me into my next signing in Jake Clifford. Newly announced Newcastle Knights player. This man, Mick, I don't know how much you know about him, but he was, again, similar to Jake Truman. He was actually touted to be one of the best halfbacks in the game. He was the replacement for Jonathan Thurston at North Queensland Cowboys. So for the fans who don't know, Jake Clifford, he's a man who's not fulfilled his potential yet. He was a superstar going in at 16, 17. He captained Australia schoolboys, captained all the way up to under 18s, I believe. And then he's just not, I think the pressure of him replacing one of the best halfbacks in Jonathan Thurston ever got to him. He's moved to Newcastle Knights. I think there's a lot going, if you know your NRL, there's a lot going on at the moment at the Knights, and it just didn't work out for him there, through probably some politics, some bit of everything going off. So he's come to Hull to probably just get away from it all, get away from some of that pressure, some of that you're meant to be this, you're meant to be that, and he'll probably come to Hull, Mick, and he might play. And his game actually suits very well with Jake. I think they've actually, this part where I think they've got really right, because Jake doesn't lead a team. At Cass, I think they wanted him to be that player. He might not necessarily be that leader but he can produce bits of magic that no one else can, where Jake's maybe more of the opposite type, where he will, great kicking game, can just keep the ship steady, per se. Just keep it rocking, keep it going. He's brilliant in his kicking game, in his leadership, and he probably just needs that bit more kick just to step up to that next level. That's your halfback partnership pull for next year.
No, I know a little bit about Jake Clifford, and like you say, he does have a bit of NRL experience with his time at the Cowboys and then obviously the Knights. Tony Smith clearly, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, is taking a bit of a punt here.
Yeah.
Because whilst Jake Truman has been there at Castleford, has he reached the potential that I saw when he first burst onto the scene? I'll probably be honest, Jake, if you're watching this, you haven't. You've been unlucky with injuries, and obviously the change at Castleford and what's gone on there in the years there, and probably similar with Jake Clifford, 24 years of age.
Yeah.
He was built up as, like you say, that replacement for Jonathan Thurston. Has he reached that potential? No, he hasn't. And rightly or wrongly, a change, hopefully, touch wood, can ignite these young players' careers. And for any Hull FC fans that are watching this, you know, a real opportunity to get excited because you've got two young players at 24. You know, this could be a chance where that spine and the cohesion, you know, you've got some continuity and stability. Because there's one thing, and a bugbear, certainly with me and watching Bradford year on year, is the Bradford have never had that stability in the halves, and that ultimately has a detrimental effect across the entire team.
Yeah.
So hopefully Tony's done his homework with his scouts, and both Clifford and Truman, you know, going to be household names at Hull FC in 23.
Yeah, but both halves are looking to prove something going into the new year, and if they get it right, if Tony gets this blend right, they could prove something. But like you said, the gamble is, is Jake Clifford that player they said they were going to be? Obviously, we believe true he is. Can he recover from the injuries that he sustained? Some people are saying his injuries are that bad that he might not be back. But if they both come back and prove the doubters wrong, they could have the best half-back partnership in the league.
Yeah. It's high risk, George. It's high risk because if you're changing everything, then you know that is an element of risk, but.
Massive risk.
You're certainly selling it to me if I'm an Hull FC fan.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, but obviously, like you said, they've both got something to prove. Yeah. If maybe Jake's injuries are worse, I don't think they are. What we're hearing is they're not. But can he prove them doubters wrong about his injuries? And Jake's got more to prove than anyone. I think he should be playing for Australia in this World Cup. He was that highly rated as a young lad, so he has got a year to prove. And if he's not that player, well, I think FC will say they'll give it a shot. They've brought someone young in and hopefully maybe give him a couple of years to get to the level he wants. The next signing I want to talk about, Mick, is another spine player, the fullback. His name's Tex Hoy. Another one from the Newcastle Knights system. He brilliant reserve player. I think obviously if you know anything about the Knights, their best player is Kalen Ponga, who is a fullback for the Newcastle Knights. I don't think that avenue ever opened up for him. I think there's parts of his game where he needs to work on, his defence, certainly, and his overall knowledge of the game. So, again, another player, probably risky, but what he does have, apparently he's faster. An insight for you, I got told this by someone at Hull. Apparently he's as fast as Jai Fields.
Right.
So that's the sort of player they've gone for. They've gone for an absolute runner who is electric paced, and in the backfield where he's got space, apparently he'll ignite them. So that's the issue is what you've said. They're completely changing the bad. Someone who's leaving in Jake Connor, who's probably not that at all. Probably a maverick of a player, but more a passer, not the best runner, brilliant world class hands, maybe the best hands in the league, but more not known for the backfield running, pace, yardage. Tex is going to bring that energy, something probably Jake's been maybe doubted for in the past, his energy and his overall effort into the game, and this man's going to bring that in abundance. So they're completely U-turning again.
But they've needed to, haven't they? They've needed to. That's been one weakness what Hull FC have been exploited on, is that sort of clunky, stuttery, forward orientated sort of game plan.
Yeah.
It has paid dividends in certain games, but as we've seen, the game is a lot faster now, and if you are to match or get to a level anywhere near a Leeds or a St Helens, you need to go down that route, which is a back row forward that distinctly recognisable from a centre or a winger. And at St Helens, you do question yourself, and you're like, no.
No, yeah, exactly. So that's they're bringing this.
That's the way the game's going, and it has been going for the last 4 or 5 years.
So they're bringing that into Hull FC, which, like you said, they've never had. So it should be whatever they expect. It's going to be an exciting season at Hull, because it's going to be completely different to anything they've watched in the past. And then we'll move on to the two Leeds players, Mick, who they've signed. Start off with Sutty. I think he finished the season as one of the best centres in the league. I think once the deal got announced that he was moving to Hull, he kicked into another gear. I bet, to be honest with you, Mick, Leeds fans might be disappointed because he's...
They are. I know a few personally, and they can't work it out. They think Gary and Rowan have dropped a little bit of a clanger on that one, but Rowan and Gary, they'll had their reasons for allowing Liam to leave and not make him an offer to keep him at Headingley.
So I spoke to someone quite high up in the Hull FC system, Mick, and they said the main reason they like Sutty is that he can play about 5 positions.
Yeah, utility value. Yeah,
utility. But he's one of the best centres in the league. But then he could also be a superstar half as he started his career off. He could play. I wouldn't put him down as playing a back row. He could play a few positions, Sutty, couldn't he? He could. And I think that's he's unique in that respect. There's not many players like him that has that utility value, that whatever happens, they can probably put Sutty in and he'll probably be a Super League standard player in quite a few positions.
Yeah, listen,
he's played full-back in his time, he's played a
great bit of business this by Tony Smith. I mean, he'd already signed prior to Tony coming in there, as we know, so, I don't think Tony's going to be... Well, it'll be like, to be honest, Tony coming in and realising they've got Liam Sutcliffe from Leeds, it'll Tony be like, my 6 numbers at bonus ball, or my 5 numbers at bonus ball have come in. Because you're not going to be shirking and asking questions, why is he signed, are you? You're going to be over the moon, A good, honest, probably that could be, depending on how everything gels, Liam Sutcliffe leads to Hull, that could be... one of the I know there's a lot of marquee players moving here, there and everywhere, but that is one definitely you want to highlight and certainly keep under the microscope.
Yeah, Hull fans, I'd be excited. Obviously, a JoeMe player, we can't speak highly enough of Sutty. He's been Leeds all of his career. He was, again, someone who got doubted at one stage and he's proved them all wrong. He was a half-back, moved to centre. Well,
he wanted to leave initially, didn't he? And then, obviously... he moved to centre and he got that chance there and he enjoyed his rugby and then he wanted to stay.
He's kicked on and on, hasn't he? Now he's one of the best strikes centres.
Has he done an inside the deal, Craig, on Liam Sutcliffe?
Sam, you'd have to help me out.
Well, if he hasn't, I'll be putting the memo in there, because we did ask Craig to do this, but he shirked the responsibility. He didn't want to. But,
he's given me the job to go.
So yeah, if he's not done an inside the deal with Liam, we'll certainly sort it out.
But again, fits into Jake Truman, Tex Hoy, all runners. Their spine is now going to be
more
runners,
athletic, more mobile.
You've got it.
Speed, pace, agility.
They're changing.
And that's what they've needed. What they've needed. We did the World Cup preview. We talked about New Zealand being a little bit clunky. And without being too respectful to Hull FC, that is how they have come across in certain games.
Yeah.
And that has been their undoing, unfortunately.
Yeah, so I think, again, there's going to be runners all over the pitch on this Hull FC side. And then the final Leeds player, they signed Brad Dwyer, which, again, he's a fast-paced runner, doesn't have the age on his side. The other 4, I think they're all... Sutty's 28 now, 27, 28, but Jake Truman, 24, Tex Hoy, 24, Jake Clifford, 24. They're going young. Brad Dwyer's probably the oldest of the crop that's going over, but he certainly don't play like it, does he, Mick?
No. I mean, look, how he can inject that pace out of dummy half is going to be a very useful asset for Hull FC. And already... you can see where they're going with this, Joe. You can see, listen.
Theme, isn't there? That's what I like about it.
And I don't know if this is something that Adam Pearson and James Clark, the CEO, have decided. But if Adam Pearson's like, my season tickets, I'm not saying they're down, but clearly they're not up. Otherwise, they'd be singing from the rooftop. So clearly, fans are voting with their feet, albeit Hull is still one of the big 6 clubs in terms of their support base, a very loyal support base, I'll add. But clearly, they're not happy with the product on the field. Hence why you're probably lighting a match against a piece of paper and the game plan for the last 3 or 4 years is up in smoke. Well, it has. You don't bring it in. Your spine is completely changing. If you're saying Tex Hoy's going straight in at number 1, you've got Clifford and Truman in the 6 and 7, Dwyer at 9. You've got a very, very utility and versatility centre in Liam Sutcliffe who can play across the park. Already, that Hull FC side is transforming and changing. And you can't really say it's a transitional year. It might, the first 6 rounds might be transition because everything needs to gel and you need cohesion. But listen, you've sold it.
They've not built it. They've not built up over a couple of years.
I'm getting up phone now to Adam Pearson. Can I have a season ticket for Hull FC? No, but no, it's an exciting times, and you know, Tony is gonna, you know, hopefully, you know, go down a different route.
Yeah, and
because Dwyer does bring that, like
it brings it. He's done come up. I think their Hull's issue is that they've had Danny Houghton, who's been the best tackler in the league for how many seasons? Probably 8 or 9 best. He's been unbelievable. He
dislikes those options, very limited in the offence.
In the offence, especially at his older age now, and they brought Brad Dwyer in, and if you've watched Leeds, he's an absolute, again, maverick. I like to use the word maverick for all these signings, because he is, isn't he? He comes on off the bench for Leeds, he either scores or assists most games, and he brings speed, it brings absolute electric pace around the ruck. So Hull FC's games, and it's going to be strange to watch, because everything that's made them Hull FC, everything. So if you ask a fan Hull FC, it's slow leg speed, massive props, massive wingers, massive centres. Try overpower you. If that doesn't work, try Jake Connor. If that doesn't work, they're out of options.
Yeah, the problem is the game plan has been so limited, and now you have got the options. The question about the two Hoy and Clifford from the NRL is how quickly they can settle in over here. They've still not arrived yet, Joe, so they're hoping, I was reading earlier, they're hoping to be here for end of November, start of December. So it's how Tony gets them integrated in and how it all comes together. I don't know how many pre-season friendlies Hull FC have got planned. I suspect it'll be
hopefully
one or two.
Few, yeah.
But as we know,
played Bradford last year, didn't they? Yeah.
Well, allegedly Hull FC are coming towards Hull on Boxing Day, so
brilliant.
That might be the first chance we get to see Jake Truman, Liam Sutcliffe, Brad Dwyer, Texoy, and Jake Clifford.
So it'll take a bit of time to.
Listen, I've got a couple of Hull fans. They're called Rob and Roy. Rob and Roy. If you're coming towards Salon Boxing Day, I'm not sure if the Cashmere's open, but we'll sort something out. Now I've got quite a lot of friends over in West Hull.
So overall, Hull fans, I'd say the two major areas is speed, athleticism, and then three out of the 5 you've got age, which I think's a big one that probably Hull FC needed. They've probably answered a lot of the questions. It's now, can it work? Can they they've not transitioned, like you said, they've not transitioned, they've flipped completely. There's no build up to this.
There's no sugarcoating. No, it's literally burn the previous year's plan. We're changing everything.
Right, a new plan.
And probably quite rightly so, because as we know with the fan base, there's so much pressure on Hull FC, and Hull FC, despite getting to that grand final in 2006, yes, Lee Radford had those Challenge Cup wins, they have not kicked on. They've probably been, in terms of the fan base and the crowds, they've probably underachieved for a lot of years in Super League. They've not reached that potential. They very nearly did in 2006, a great year when they got to the grand final and lost to St Helens. But, you know, following on from that, you thought it was building with those Challenge Cup wins over Wigan and that famous win over Warrington, but sadly it weren't to be.
And then, so we'll just go over some of the losses, Mick. They've lost Jake Connor, obviously going to Huddersfield, massive loss. They've lost Josh Bowden, and Josh Reynolds, who both left mid-season.
Yeah.
Obviously, our JoeMe player, who was just on the show earlier on, Luke Gale, has now left. And then they didn't re-sign any of the 3 players they took on loan. That was Jack Walker, Ellis Longstaff, and Josh Sim. So that's 3 players that I think they thought was going to sign on. Obviously, in the hopes, maybe not Josh Sim, but the other 2 certainly were available, Wacker was certainly available. Ellis Longstaff, the news around town is that he's available. I think he's just been given we'll not get into that, but he's available. So interesting. They've lost Luke Gale, who's probably at his age now a slower half, but can put on a brilliant play, can lead a team. The issue is here, Mick. Probably that word, losing a Jake Connor, a Luke Gale. They've lost them, probably the leaders of the team.
Yeah, they've lost the experience.
And can these players replace that? And if they can, they'll probably have a fantastic year.
in Coach Tony Smith, they've got somebody who does have the experience, but obviously Tony's not out there on the field. And you make a good point, clearly they're going for a very youth-looking Hull FC side, but you've got to question probably the leadership group. But like I say, they've decided to go for the youth, and if they get a good couple of years out of this, and this is part of the regeneration of Hull FC, then Tony Smith, James Clark and Adam Pearson deserve all the credit. But this, when you do stuff like this is high risk. It is high risk.
It's incredibly high risk.
Because you're literally clearing out your spine if you're starting from scratch.
The one thing I'd say is probably give them, Hull FC fans, probably give them time, because there's no... Or if they strike a match and hit it straight away, that'd be a shock to me. Even though I as you can probably tell, I do believe in a lot of these signings. But if they hit it off the ground, I don't expect them to be good for the first 6, 7. It will take a while to come in. I'd say judge them on the back end of the season. If they can play amazing, get a playoff run at the back end of the season, I'd say you've had a brilliant success and well done. The project's worked going.
A lot of people seem to think Hull FC are going to be in a relegation spot with your Salfords and your Wakefields and your Castlefords. I actually put my bottom 4 on there, and I didn't have Hull FC in the bottom 4. So, breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not tipping you to be in that relegation battle. But I'm certainly not tipping you to be top 4.
I'm with you, Mick. I think middle of the table next year with excitement to come.
But is that acceptable, Joe, for the fan base? I wouldn't say long suffering, but clearly the fan base is frustrated with what has happened previously on the field, which is probably why Adam Pearson and James Clark have realised that they've got to make wholesale changes. They've got to change it all. I know Tony's coming and Tony will be behind some of these changes, but ultimately, they have to improve the on-field product.
I agree. I just, like I said, that's a big ask. They've got a completely new spine. Not completely new, they're keeping Danny Houghton, but Brad Wise is going to be introduced more. Danny Houghton's played nearly 80 minutes the last 7-8 seasons. That's changing. They've got a new fullback when they've had Jake Connor completely dominating the attack over the last 3-4 years. They've got 2 new halfbacks. There are 2 new starting halfbacks. So if they did hit the ground running, they've completed a masterstroke. But that's a lot to ask, innit? That's a lot to ask from a completely new spine. I'd say judge them on the last end of the season, pick the last 8 games out, and if they go on a massive run and win 7 out of the 8 games, job done, I reckon. That's just me. Hull, like you said, Hull fans are going to disagree with me saying that, won't they? But I'd say give him a year, because luckily you've got age on your side. It's not a bunch of 32-year-olds going one last hurrah this time. It's all right, we've signed 3 24-year-olds. Sutty's got plenty, 5 or 6 years left. Brad's got 5 or 6 years left. They've got this new spine will have time, or should be given time. Hopefully they do. Hopefully the fans don't come down with them too quickly, and they can build something over the next couple of years.
Well, there you go. We've both predicted Hull FC to be safe from relegation, but not quite there, challenging the top 4. A playoff spot, though, may beckon for Tony Smith and Hull FC next year. Thank you for joining us. This has been the Hull FC preview. Join us next week where we look at another Super League club. And once again, we will be doing Championship and League One once those squads are finalised. Thank you.